So, so maybe as a coping mechanism for
Не всяких. Как это называется? Ну, что мы сейчас ведем?
Спецоперация России на
Кончилась специальная
территории
военная
Украины.
операция. Сегодня ночью она кончилась.
the war, or maybe just as a hyperfixation, I recently might have spent nearly $200 on on Star Wars toys. Xwing is pretty fun. If you found this video, you know what it is. You move around these little spaceship toys and make boom and pew pew laser noises with your mouth. Pew pew. It's great. Problem, however, is where are you gonna put them all? The obvious solutions are pretty obvious. Bookbinder for the cards and a small compartment box or two for the bits and bops and the rulers, but that just leaves the minis. Looking around, people apparently just throw them in with their tokens, letting them rattle around like they didn't just pay $200 for the lot of them. There are some people who 3D print holders, which do look cool, but I don't know a printer and I'm not gonna start learning ZBrush anytime soon. There's pluck foam cases, but when packed seem kind of bulbous and cumbersome. So here's the thing. The individual ship expansions already come with these like two-piece ship holders that hold the ships pretty well. They look pretty okay. They're just a little bit flimsy. There's a lot of negative space. And the larger expansions are way too big to be useful. Has anyone tried modifying these to be part of their storage solution?
Their plastic from
Wow.
Xwing miniature packaging and placing
Wow,
that
okay.
in the
You really just
case.
You really
for
just took a
storage.
kitchen knife to
Absolutely phenomenal
that
stuff. I
interceptor
mean,
and just
even if you're painting your ships,
stuffed
I
it
think
in
that's
there
a really
like
solid way to store
a
your
candy
ships.
wrapper or
I'm
a
trying to keep
tampon
them
or
out of the
something.
way. You know, these cases stack really well.
Anyway, I have some of these UltraPro deck boxes that I sometimes use for board game storage of board games that I really like. They're about the same size as the expansion boxes. They stack, and they look really nice because they're clear plastic and you can see into them and see what's inside, and it's really classy. It's like a little glass case in a museum. And through the magic of deciding to make a video about this long after I started the project, I have a few prototypes, and I really like these. They hold the minis just fine. They're not rattling around. One thing I didn't realize while making these, as a consequence of these being deck boxes, you can put your cards in them. And not just your cards, but your little wheel thing and your tokens. Stuff that belongs with that ship in your build are stored with that little toy ship now. There are some obvious downsides to this though. The main one is that if you've been playing Xwing for a while now, chances are you've long since thrown away the original boxes, which seems like a you problem. Seriously, who do you think you are? Not a hoarder? The second potential problem is these deck boxes. The larger ones are $2 a pop before shipping. Smaller ones are two for $2 before shipping, which is pretty okay. But if you have a lot of ships, if you're planning to get a lot of ships, more standard storage solutions might be cheaper. Another problem with this is some ships are going to be too big for this. I'm lucky in that the biggest ship I have is the Sith Infiltrator, which is going to fit in the 250 count box just fine. But if you have the Gauntlet Fighter or any of the epic ships, you're on your own. The final problem is to make these look nice, you're gonna have to put in some work. And so for the remainder of this video, I'm gonna show you how I made mine. So not everything got recorded because of course it didn't, but here's the breakdown. The single individual ship expansion boxes are too big to fit in the deck box, but if you cut out the sides, they will be too small to stay in place inside of them. So my workaround is to cut out the molds into neat little squares that look pretty okay, and glue them onto cards cut precisely to sandwich between the two sides of the deck box. This way they're sandwiched, they don't move around, they stay in place. For the 50 count and 100 count boxes, the dimensions you want are 3 3/4 inches by 2 3/4 inches. Carve out a cavity in the card in the rough shape of the mold and glue the mold on top of the card. You could opt to glue the card on top of the mold instead, but some of the more complex shapes are very difficult to cut out neatly, and it's gonna look kind of ugly. Whereas it's very simple to cut out the mold into a nice, neat rectangle and just have that on your face. Now, I've opted to use clear plastic as opposed to not clear plastic or cardstock to try and keep the presentation clear and keep with the clear deck box museum look. The downside to this is you get to see all the glue. The way I worked around this was to paint the face of the mold, and I did this by sanding the face down, just to give the paint something to bite into, and then I went over it with this paint marker paint that I have. The paint I used wasn't completely opaque, and that combined with the sanding kind of gave the plastic this weird translucent wood grain look, which I kind of like. Another thing I don't have footage of is the glue application. Instead of applying the glue right on the edge, which is visible, or globbing some glue down first and then sandwiching that with the other sheet of plastic, which increases the thickness of the entire insert, I found the easiest way was to drill some holes into the card, secure it to the mold with some tape, and put globs of hot glue into the holes. If you're worried about the glue not sticking to glossy plastic, you can scratch or scuff up the surface a bit to give it a bit more bite. The Phoenix Squadron expansion gave me a bit more problems, and I'm sure there's other expansions that also do this, but some of the molds on this one are a bit too close for comfort, and I had to get a little bit more creative about how I'm gonna cut out the molds. So this is the best I could do. Hopefully I can do it neatly, and I made sure to make space for the blank cards. What I'm gonna do first is just crudely cut a circle around everything. And then and only then will I start making the clean lines. So through the process of being sort of good and sort of talented, I was able to cut these. Why are the A-wings green? Weren't they blue in the show? They're blue on the cards. 0 out of 10. Unplayable. And as for my large ship, I can just cut it out into the size I need and plop it into the 250 count box. No problem. The inner dimensions of the 250 count box, by the way, is 3 by 7/8 and 5 3/8. I don't know if this will fit the Slave 1. I'm pretty sure this won't fit the Millennium Falcon, but if you can fit it in there, you can fit it in there. They do have other boxes, but I don't know how well they fit with the 50 count and the 100 count boxes. With everything cut to size and assembled, I got this hard shell briefcase to fit everything in, and all in all, I spent this much on storage and this much on shipping because I'm an idiot and didn't buy everything in bulk and just bought things as I kept on buying more and more Xwing stuff. But, you know, compare that to some of your other options. That's it. Video is over. You can leave now.